The courtroom fell silent the moment the old man steadied himself on his cane, his hands trembling as if carrying 92 years of unspoken battles. His daughter stood across from him, arms crossed, eyes sharp with a confidence that felt almost cruel. Judge Judy watched them both, the tension thick enough to silence even the cameras. And when the daughter opened her mouth to justify evicting him, the room braced for a truth no one was ready for. Her voice entered the courtroom before her confidence did, sharp at the edges, but trembling where pride began to thin. Judge Judy lifted her gaze, sensing the daughter was performing rather than telling the truth, and the old man beside her simply bowed his head as if bracing for impact. The daughter straightened her shoulders, the tightness of her posture almost rehearsed. She began with practiced words, the kind polished in a mirror far from any real accountability. "He wanted to leave," she insisted, each syllable clipped, rehearsed, hollow. Her father, 92 years old, leaning on a cane that looked older than some spectators, flinched as if hearing the words for the first time. The courtroom's attention shifted to him. His hands trembled in his lap, not from age alone, but from grief too old to name. He didn't look at his daughter. He looked at the floor, the kind of floor veterans have stared at countless times, during roll calls, during bad news, during moments when standing tall is no longer possible. Judge Judy studied them silently. Her eyes moved between daughter and father as if tracking two halves of a story that refused to touch. The daughter continued, explaining how stressful it was having him in her home, how he refused to follow house rules, how she couldn't keep doing everything for everyone. Her voice rose with indignation, but the words lacked weight. They floated, brittle and breakable. The veteran's voice entered like a whisper carried on a long road. "I never wanted to cause trouble." He didn't defend himself. He apologized for existing, for aging, for needing anything at all. His daughter cut him off with a scoff that drew a quick glance from the bailiff. Judy leaned back, her silence louder than any interruption. The daughter sensed the shift and spoke faster, building a wall of explanations. She claimed he chose to leave, that she supported him more than anyone, that she deserved appreciation. The courtroom's air tightened. Arrogance has a sound, and today it filled the room. The veteran lifted his head, eyes damp but steady. "She said I should find somewhere that fits me better." His voice cracked, not from weakness, but from the betrayal stitched inside that sentence. Judge Judy's brows lifted slightly. She'd heard thousands of lies, thousands of fractured truths, and this one carried the echo of something darker. Then she dropped her first quiet strike. "Why?" she asked, her voice soft but surgical. "Did you really remove him from your home?" The daughter swallowed hard. The first crack had formed. Her answer came too quickly and too confidently for anyone to believe. Her laugh cut through the courtroom like a blade, too sharp, too quick, too false. It was the laugh of someone terrified of silence, because silence leaves room for truth. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed as the daughter tried turning discomfort into confidence. The daughter crossed her arms tighter, a shield of arrogance wrapped around fear. "Everyone keeps acting like I abandoned him," she said, her tone dripping with irritation rather than remorse. "He made his own choices. I did what I could." The words fell flat, hollow enough for the entire room to hear the distance she couldn't hide. Judge Judy didn't speak yet. She simply tilted her head, a gesture that told the room she was taking notes in a language only truth understands. The veteran sat still beside his daughter, folding his hands in his lap as if trying to make himself smaller. His eyes didn't meet hers. Instead, they drifted to the faint scratches on his cane, tracing memories nobody else could see. Those scratches, those silent stories, seemed to speak louder than anything said aloud. Judy finally leaned forward. "How long?" she asked deliberately. "Was your father without a roof over his head after you removed him?" The daughter inhaled sharply, too sharply, then exhaled with an exaggerated sigh. "He was fine," she insisted. "He had options. People exaggerate. He wasn't homeless." The defensiveness in her voice tightened the room further. The judge's eyebrows lifted slightly. "That's not what I asked." A murmur rippled across the courtroom. Even the cameras seemed to lean closer. The daughter fumbled, tried to soften her voice. "He stayed somewhere. I don't know exactly. But he wasn't out on the street." The more she tried to explain, the more contradictions unraveled in her tone, like fabric fraying with each tug. Judge Judy shifted her attention to the veteran. "Sir, where did you stay?" The old man hesitated, not because he was unsure, but because he was ashamed. His voice came out soft, fragile. "In my truck, Your Honor. Only for a few nights. I didn't want to bother anyone." Silence blanketed the room. Even the daughter stopped moving. His words settled like dust on polished wood, quiet, undeniable, impossible to ignore. His truck, a 92-year-old disabled veteran, nights alone. Judy turned back to the daughter, her tone cooling. "You said he had a place. What place is a truck?" The daughter's lips parted, but no sound came. The courtroom held still, watching her confidence drain away in slow, visible drips. "Maybe," she finally muttered. "He didn't tell me everything." But the judge knew better. Distance has a sound, and her excuses echoed with it. Then Judy opened the file again, flipping to the timeline the daughter gave earlier. The dates no longer lined up, the story no longer held. Something was wrong, and the judge saw it. "Your timeline," Judy said quietly, almost gently, "doesn't match your story. Would you like to try again?" The daughter's face paled. The unraveling had begun. His voice rose slowly, like an old engine trying to turn after too many years of stillness. The courtroom leaned in, not from curiosity, but from respect. And for the first time, the daughter couldn't interrupt him. The veteran cleared his throat, a small, fragile sound that somehow quieted the entire room. Judge Judy softened her posture slightly, creating space for him to speak. No cameras moved, no papers shuffled. Even his daughter stopped breathing as his story edged toward daylight. "I didn't want to be a problem," he began, his voice thin but steady. Each word felt carved from memories he wished he didn't have to revisit. "I only moved in because she said she wanted the company. She said she needed me." The daughter rolled her eyes, but the gesture felt smaller than before, defensive, not powerful. The old man continued, hands folded together like he was holding something too fragile to drop. "She told me she'd been lonely, that she missed having family close. After my wife passed, I thought maybe it would help her. And me." His voice cracked on the last word. The sound wasn't dramatic. It was human, raw, vulnerable in a way that made the room blur at the edges. Judge Judy asked gently, "Did you agree to pay her rent?" He shook his head, a slow motion filled with decades of dignity. "I offered to help with groceries, maybe with a bill if I could. But I live on a fixed income. She knew that. I thought we understood each other." The daughter stiffened, as if every inch of her posture was trying to hold up a crumbling story. "Did she ever tell you," Judy asked, "that she felt overwhelmed by your presence?" His lips pressed together, trembling. "No, Your Honor. She told me she liked having me there. She said it made her feel safe." A pause followed, quiet, heavy. "Then one morning she said I should start packing. Said I needed to find a place more suited for someone like me." Someone like me. The phrase landed like a bruise on the floor between them. The daughter looked away. The veteran inhaled, shaky but determined. "I didn't want to embarrass her, so I left with what I could carry. Slept in my truck until I figured something out. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want her judged." The irony lingered in the air. The man who protected her reputation now sat in a courtroom because she destroyed his life. Judge Judy's eyes sharpened. She'd met many liars, many manipulators, many children who forgot the hands that raised them, but something in this story rang differently. There was a tenderness here, a betrayal rooted not in hatred, but in thoughtless habit. She leaned closer, her voice calm but heavy with intent. "Sir, You mentioned an agreement earlier. What agreement? The daughter's head snapped up, panic flashing across her face. The veteran nodded slowly. Yes, the agreement she and I made before I moved in. The room collectively inhaled. Judge Judy opened her notebook. Tell me exactly what that agreement was. The daughter's expression collapsed. Her voice snapped before she could stop it, sharp, defensive, far too loud for the question asked. He promised to pay rent, she blurted out, the words shoved into the air like a shield thrown in panic. And just like that, the courtroom shifted. Judge Judy didn't flinch. She simply blinked once, slowly, as if resetting her patience. The daughter's outburst echoed off the walls, leaving a thin aftertaste of desperation in its wake. The veteran lowered his eyes, his shoulders curving inward like a man trying to shrink from conflict he never wanted. Rent? Judy repeated, her tone deceptively calm. That's not what he described. The daughter pushed forward, gripping the podium as though holding it tight enough could hold her story together. He agreed to contribute. He said he would help. I can't support an adult who doesn't pay his way. Her voice wavered on the last phrase, betraying fear she couldn't hide. The judge turned her attention to the veteran. Sir, did you promise rent? He shook his head without hesitation. No, Your Honor. I told her I'd give what I could from my benefits. That's different from rent. His voice carried no anger, only quiet disappointment, and somehow that hurt more. The daughter's jaw tightened. He's twisting things. He always does this. He leaves things out to look like the victim. Judge Judy's eyes flicked upward, cold and steady. I'm not hearing that in his testimony. The daughter's breath caught. Judy reached for the folder on her desk. The papers rustled like whispers, secrets eager to breathe. Let's examine the financial arrangement, she said. You submitted bank statements, correct? The daughter nodded, too quickly. Judy flipped through the documents, each page turning with surgical calm. Then her hand stopped, completely. She stared at one page longer than necessary, long enough for the courtroom to sense something had shifted. The daughter watched her, swallowing hard. Judy tapped the page once. According to this, several withdrawals were made from your father's account. The daughter immediately jumped in. Yes, those were his contributions. He gave me that money. Were the withdrawals made by him? Judy asked, her tone suddenly sharp enough to cut through the air. Silence. The daughter hesitated. Her lips parted, then closed again. Her eyes flickered, left, right, anywhere but toward her father. The veteran looked confused. Your Honor, I don't remember withdrawing that much. Judy leaned forward. The lighting in the courtroom shifted, catching the edge of her glasses and casting a thin line of reflection across her expression. A silent warning. These amounts, Judy said evenly, each word carved with precision, don't match the story either of you has told me. The daughter's fingers twitched against the podium, nails tapping in a frantic rhythm. Did you, Judy asked slowly, each word carved with precision, access your father's account without his knowledge? The daughter froze. Her silence was louder than a confession. Judy closed the folder gently. I think it's time we talk about those withdrawals. The courtroom held its breath. Her confidence flickered, not enough for her to notice, but enough for everyone else to see. It was the smallest crack, yet it changed the temperature of the entire courtroom. Judge Judy tightened her gaze, and suddenly the daughter no longer controlled the narrative. The judge slid the folder closer, her fingers steady, her posture still. Nothing about her movement was rushed, which somehow made the moment even more dangerous. The daughter stood stiffly at the podium, trying to keep her expression neutral, but her eyes betrayed her. They darted to the folder, then away, then back again, as if tracking a predator's shadow. Judy spoke with a tone that had ended thousands of lies. You claim these withdrawals were his contributions, correct? The daughter nodded, forcing a smile that collapsed halfway into a grimace. Yes, that's right. Then explain. Judy continued, turning the page with surgical precision. How withdrawals made on dates when he was physically unable to drive were still removed from his account. Gasps rippled lightly across the gallery. Even the bailiff shifted his weight, sensing the tide turning. The veteran blinked slowly, confusion deepening into hurt. I was in the hospital that week, Your Honor. I couldn't even walk to the bathroom without help. Judy nodded. Exactly. The daughter's throat tightened, visibly. A bead of sweat formed at her hairline, though she tried hiding it by adjusting her posture. She opened her mouth, but her first attempt at explanation escaped as nothing more than a weak exhale. I handled his errands, she finally blurted. He told me his PIN. He trusted me. I only took what he owed me for living in my home. Judy lifted an eyebrow. Owed you? Your father says he agreed only to contribute what he could, and your withdrawals exceed his stated income for certain months. Her voice remained calm, devastatingly calm. The daughter's fingers curled around the podium, knuckles whitening. He forgets things, she protested. He gets confused. I was helping him. He's making it sound worse than it is. The old man's chin drops to his chest, shame pooling around him like a shadow he never asked to carry. I remember the important things, he whispers. I remember giving you what I could. I never agreed to more. Judy studies her with piercing stillness. Is that why you removed him from your home? Because his income couldn't support your lifestyle? The daughter recoils as if struck. No, absolutely not. I had every right. Judy cuts in sharply. You had a responsibility. Silence floods the room, not peaceful silence, but thick, moral silence that exposes everything hidden. The daughter's breathing quickens. Her eyes glimmer with the realization that her story is slipping from her grasp. Judge Judy leans forward, her voice low but powerful. If your father was a burden to you, why did you continue accessing his account? Her mouth opens. Nothing comes out. For the first time, she looks small. Judy taps the folder once. There's more here, and you're not going to like what comes next. The daughter swallows hard. The balance of power has officially shifted. Her voice strains as she insists she acted for his good, but everyone can hear the fear beneath the words. Fear doesn't roar, it cracks, and in this moment, her confidence is beginning to split open.
The daughter stiffens, pulling herself taller as if height alone can shield her from the truth gathering around her like storm clouds. I helped him, she says, forcing steadiness into every word. Nobody else did. Everyone left it to me. The courtroom absorbs her claim, but it doesn't soften. If anything, the silence grows heavier, like it's waiting for her lies to buckle under their own weight. Judge Judy folds her hands, elbows resting on the bench, gaze sharpened to a fine point. You keep saying you helped him, she replies calmly. But helping someone who never asked for what you took isn't help. That's control. The daughter flinches, though she tries disguising it with a scoff. You don't understand the pressure I was under. He would forget things. He needed structure. The veteran looks up, confusion clouding his eyes. I asked you to remind me of my appointments, he says softly, not to manage my life. Her jaw clenches, frustration leaking through the cracks. See? He twists my words. Always has. But now her voice shakes, only slightly, but enough for Judy to hear the emotional fracture forming. Let's revisit the eviction, Judy says, shifting the file toward her. You claimed he refused your rules, yet the neighbor's statements, she taps a page, describe a very different scene. The daughter's eyes snap to the page, panic flickering behind her lashes. Judy reads aloud, her voice steady as a scalpel. We saw her pushing him outside with his belongings. He was confused, asking why she was doing this. A ripple of shock spreads through the room. Even the gallery, trained to stay silent, can't suppress a quiet gasp. The daughter's composure shatters. That's not what happened. They misunderstood. He stumbled, and I... Judy raises a hand. Silence returns instantly. Your father says you told him to find a place more suited for someone like him. Did you say that? The daughter freezes. Her lips form a shape that resembles denial, but no sound escapes. She searches the room for a lifeline, for someone who might believe her version over the truth tightening around her. But all she finds are eyes watching, waiting, judging. The veteran's voice whispers again, frail enough to break hearts. I didn't ask to be a burden. His daughter's eyes flicker. Guilt, fear, anger, all fighting for dominance. Judy's tone shifts, colder now. Your story is unraveling, and I suggest you stop pulling at threads you can't control. Her breathing becomes shallow. She knows what's coming. Explain, Judy says, leaning forward, why your neighbors reported seeing you force your 92-year-old disabled father out of your home. The daughter's mouth opens, but the truth chokes her silence. If you were sitting in that courtroom, what would you do? Stay silent or speak up? Her hands tremble, just once, just briefly. But it's enough. Enough for the courtroom to feel the shift. Enough for Judge Judy to recognize the moment when arrogance begins turning into fear. The daughter tightens her grip on the podium until her knuckles turn bone white. What once looked like confidence now looks like bracing. Bracing against the truth, against judgment, against herself. That neighbor is lying, she snaps, but her voice fractures on the last word. People make assumptions. They don't know what really happened. Judge Judy studies her, eyes unblinking. Then explain it to me. What happened? The daughter inhales sharply, trying to compose a narrative she can no longer control. He stumbled, she says. I tried to help him, but he resisted. He wanted to make a scene. The veteran flinches. Not dramatically, just a small, involuntary tightening of his shoulders, like a man remembering the sting of humiliation he worked so hard to forget. Judy notices. The courtroom notices. And suddenly the daughter's claim feels smaller, thinner, unable to withstand even the lightest pressure of scrutiny. Judy flips a page in the file. The sound slices through the silence. Your neighbors describe hearing you yelling at him before he was outside. Her voice softens, but the softness is more dangerous than anger. They said you told him he was no longer welcome. The daughter shakes her head, shaking too fast, too erratically. People mishear things. They don't know what it's like to care for someone who... She trails off. Because the truth is sitting 5 feet away, staring at the floor, ashamed for existing. The judge leans forward. Who what? Who raised you? Who protected you? Who trusted you enough to move into your home after losing everything that made him feel secure? Her face reddens. She opens her mouth but can't find a word strong enough to hold her story together. The veteran lifts his head, voice trembling. I never yelled. I just asked why she wanted me gone. His eyes glisten, but no tears fall. This isn't a man who cries easily. This is a man who has endured storms, but none like the one created by the person he loved most. A murmur stirs in the gallery. Sympathy, disbelief, anger. Judge Judy gives the daughter no room to run. You had an obligation to care for him properly. Instead, you removed him without ensuring he had a safe place to go. And now you expect this court to believe it was an accident? The daughter's breathing quickens. Every inhale sounds like panic trying to masquerade as indignation. Her voice comes out small. I did what I thought was right. No, Judy says, voice slicing through the air. You did what was easiest. The daughter reels backward as if struck. Silence falls again. Heavy, condemning, unavoidable. Judy turns a page slowly, deliberately. And now, she says, eyes locking on the daughter, we need to discuss your brother. The daughter's face drains of color. The fault lines have opened. She hesitates, just long enough for the truth to slip between the cracks of her composure. And in Judge Judy's courtroom, a hesitation can be louder than a confession. The daughter's silence becomes the first clear answer she's given all day. Her eyes dart from the judge to the papers, then back again, as if searching for a version of the story that still makes sense. But lies, once cracked open, don't reseal. They spill. They stain. They expose. Judge Judy lets the silence linger. She understands the power of a well-placed pause, the kind that forces guilt to rise to the surface like oil separating from water. "You didn't answer my question," Judy says finally, her voice low and even. "Did you force your father out of your home?" The daughter straightens, clinging to the last fragments of her performance. "I didn't force him," she insists. "He was difficult. He refused to follow rules. Judy lifts a hand. "Stop." The word, small and sharp, slices through the daughter's excuses. "Difficult people don't end up sleeping in trucks," Judy continues. "Thrown-out people do." A collective exhale drifts through the gallery. The daughter swallows hard, realizing she has nowhere left to run. "You don't understand," she says, her voice trembling at the edges. "I had so much going on. He was overwhelming me." The judge leans forward slightly. "Being overwhelmed doesn't give you permission to abandon a 92-year-old disabled veteran." The daughter's breath stutters, the moral weight landing squarely on her shoulders. "And speaking of overwhelming," Judy adds, tapping her folder, "there's something else." She pulls out a separate set of documents, thinner, older, stamped with a different case number. The daughter's eyes widen. Panic begins its slow, unmistakable crawl across her features. "These," Judy says, "are records from a dispute involving your brother." A low murmur trickles through the courtroom like a draft. The daughter's mouth tightens, her expression flickering between anger and fear. Judy continues, "Your brother accused you of mismanaging funds and attempting to pressure him into leaving your father's home years ago. Very similar patterns to what we're discussing today." "That was different," the daughter snaps, but her voice breaks mid-word. "He lied. He always lies." Judy doesn't respond immediately. She just watches, letting the daughter's panic expose more truth than questioning ever could. "Is that so?" Judy asks. "Because the documentation and testimony paint a different picture, one that suggests a pattern of removing the people who inconvenience you." The daughter grips the podium with shaking hands. "You don't understand what they put me through." The veteran's voice breaks softly into the space. "We just wanted a family." The daughter closes her eyes, the guilt landing harder than any accusation. Judge Judy's tone sharpens. "You weren't trying to care for your father. You were trying to clear your life of anyone who didn't serve it." The daughter's eyes snap open, horrified. Judy lifts the final page. "Tell me," she says quietly, "why were you trying to remove your brother too?" The daughter freezes. The truth has nowhere left to hide. Judge Judy's question hangs in the air like a blade suspended above truth. The daughter doesn't breathe, and the courtroom waits, knowing whatever comes next is no longer about mistakes but patterns. Her lips part, but no words emerge. The silence is thick, almost sticky, clinging to every corner of the room. It exposes her more thoroughly than any answer she could give. Judge Judy watches her closely, not with anger, but with recognition. This isn't a woman caught in one bad decision. This is someone who has lived behind the same story for years. "I didn't try to remove my brother," the daughter finally blurts. "He left on his own. He was unstable. He made everything difficult." But the panic in her tone betrays her. Judy slides the old file into view. "He filed this complaint because you attempted to limit his access to your father. You told him he was interfering with your plans. Do you dispute that?" The daughter stiffens. "He twisted my words. He always wanted to control things. I was the one taking care of everyone." The veteran's hands tighten around his cane, knuckles whitening. "Your brother loved you," he murmurs, voice fragile but clear. "You pushed him away." She spins toward him, anger sparking. Because he never helped. He never showed up when I needed him. Judy's voice slices through the outburst. Help with what? Managing your father, or managing his resources? The gallery shifts, the weight of that implication dropping like a stone. The daughter blinks rapidly, suddenly fragile. I was overwhelmed, she whispers. You have no idea what it's like to feel trapped by family obligations. The judge softens, not out of sympathy, but precision. Being overwhelmed doesn't justify manipulation, and it certainly doesn't justify putting a 92-year-old man onto the street. The daughter's shoulders collapse inward, pride shrinking under the fluorescent lights. Judy continues, her tone relentless but controlled. Your brother left because you made him feel unwelcome, and now your father tells me you did the same to him. Two vulnerable people removed from your life, both connected by the same motive. The daughter shakes her head violently. No, I just wanted peace. I just wanted my home back. Peace, Judy repeats slowly, is not achieved by erasing people. The words land like a verdict of their own. The veteran lifts his gaze. There's no anger in his eyes, only ache. I didn't want to cause any more distance between you and your brother, he says. I thought maybe we could all be close again. For the first time, the daughter looks shaken by something other than fear. His sadness disarms her in a way the judge's questions never could. Judge Judy rests her hands on the bench. This isn't about one incident. This is about a pattern, one that has harmed the very people who loved you most. The daughter sways slightly, as if the truth is finally too heavy for her to stand beneath. Judy leans forward. So, I'll ask you again. What were you really trying to protect? Your home or your image? The daughter's silence answers for her. Do you think remorse should erase guilt? Or does justice demand consequences, even when regret arrives too late? For the first time, the daughter stops performing. No excuses, no rehearsed lines, just silence. A silence thick enough to finally let the truth breathe. Her shoulders slump, as if the weight she's been carrying, or the weight she's been avoiding, finally presses down with its full force. The courtroom watches her unravel not in anger, but in exhaustion. She looks less like a villain and more like someone who has run out of versions of herself to hide behind. I never wanted things to get this bad, she whispers. Judge Judy studies her, not with pity, but with understanding sharpened by decades of seeing pain disguise itself as hostility. Then why, she asks softly, did you push away the very people who could have helped you? The daughter's eyes flick to her father. For the first time, her expression doesn't harden. It softens, just enough for a fragile truth to slip through. I was drowning, she admits. Everyone thought I was strong. Everyone thought I could handle everything, but I was barely holding myself together. The veteran shifts, confusion shadowing his face. You never told me, he murmurs. You always said you were fine. She swallows, blinking rapidly. Because every time I showed weakness, people expected more from me. I thought if I let you in, I would lose myself. Judy leans back, folding her arms. There's a difference between fear and cruelty. But when fear turns into control, that's where harm begins. The daughter braces against the words, but she doesn't deny them. The air thickens, not with accusation, but with something even heavier. Recognition. The judge turns toward the veteran. And you moved in with her because you wanted to help, didn't you? He nods slowly. She said she needed me. After her mother passed, I thought I could still be useful. A quiet ache passes over Judy's expression. The unspoken tragedy of two people who loved each other but never spoke the same emotional language. The daughter's voice returns, softer. I was angry at him, she says, not for what he did, for what he reminded me of, that I wasn't as strong as I pretended to be. The veteran looks at her with a tenderness that hurts to witness. "You were always strong," he says. "I just wish you'd let me see when you weren't." Her breath catches, a sharp, involuntary tremor. For the first time, she looks like the child he once carried, not the woman who cast him out. Judge Judy allows the moment to settle, then gently lifts a sealed envelope from the bench. "There's something in here you haven't heard yet." The daughter's face tightens. "What is that?" "A letter," Judy says, "from someone who also lived through your choices." Shock flickers through her expression. "From who?" Judy's silence provides the answer before she speaks. "Your brother," Judy says softly, "and what he wrote changes everything." The daughter's breath stops. Judge Judy rests her fingers on the envelope like she's holding someone's heart between the folds of paper. The daughter watches with dread tightening her jaw, while the veteran's breathing falters with old unspoken guilt. Whatever is inside will not just reveal truth, it will reshape it.
The judge breaks the seal with a slow, deliberate motion. The sound is soft, but it slices through the courtroom like a razor. The daughter flinches. The veteran closes his eyes. The gallery leans forward as though pulled by invisible strings. "This," Judy begins, unfolding the paper, "was submitted by your brother as soon as he learned about today's hearing." She glances toward the daughter. "He felt the court needed to understand the full picture." The daughter shakes her head, panic flickering. "He just wants to make me look bad. He always hated me." Judy lifts a hand, silencing her instantly. Hate is easy to recognize. This letter is not hate. She starts reading. "Dad never wanted to burden her. He believed in her more than she believed in herself. When she got overwhelmed, instead of asking for help, she pushed us both away." A tremor passes through the daughter's shoulders. Judy continues. "I left because she made it clear I wasn't welcome, but I never stopped caring about her, or him. I only wanted him to be safe." The veteran's lips part, stunned by the tenderness in his son's words. "Please understand, she wasn't always like this. Fear changed her, pressure changed her, but pain doesn't excuse cruelty. She hurt him more than she realizes." The daughter's hand rises to her mouth, her breath shaking. Her eyes glisten, not from manipulation this time, but because the truth has finally pierced her armor. Judge Judy looks up from the letter, her gaze steady, penetrating. "Your brother isn't trying to destroy you. He's trying to explain you." The daughter's voice is barely a whisper. "I never asked him to." "No," Judy replies. "But that's the tragedy here. The people who loved you most spent years trying to understand you, while you spent those same years pushing them out." The daughter breaks, not loud, not dramatic, just a fragile, shuddering collapse of the walls she's held up for decades. "I didn't know he still cared," she whispers. "I thought he was done with me." The veteran leans forward, eyes misted. "We never stopped caring," he says softly. "Not your brother. Not me." The daughter looks at him, truly looks, and something inside her fractures enough for light to seep through. Judge Judy places the letter down gently. "There's one more question that must be asked," she says. "It may not be easy to answer." The daughter straightens slowly, bracing herself. Judy turns to the veteran. "Sir, is there something you never told her? Something this court needs to hear?" His eyes widen slightly, the question hitting a place farther back in his memory, deeper than the rest. The daughter turns to him, breathless. "Dad?" The veteran grips his cane, voice trembling. "There's something I should have said years ago." The courtroom goes still. The truth is finally standing up. The veteran's fingers tighten around his cane, knuckles trembling with a truth he's carried far too long. The daughter leans in, breath fragile, as though afraid the confession might break her. And Judge Judy watches, knowing some truths don't cut, but carve. The old man takes a slow breath, one that trembles on the way in and shatters on the way out. His voice arrives softly, like a memory no longer willing to stay silent. I should have told you this long ago, he begins, before everything turned into distance and anger. The daughter's eyes glisten with confusion. Told me what? He looks down, tracing the worn wood of his cane, a silent map of battles fought, sacrifices made, and regrets gathered. When your brother left years ago, it wasn't only because of you, he says. It was because of me. Judy's gaze sharpens. The daughter stiffens. The veteran continues, shame swimming through his voice. He and I argued. I told him that you needed me more than he did, that he should give you space, that I would stay by your side. The daughter's mouth opens in disbelief. You chose me over him? He nods slowly. I thought I was helping. I thought you were fragile. I thought your brother was strong enough to lose me for a while. The daughter's breath fractures, an audible split in her composure. But, he said you pushed him away. Tears gather at the corners of the veteran's eyes. I did. Not out of anger, out of love. Misplaced love. I wanted to protect you, but I ended up breaking him. Breaking both of you. A hush falls over the courtroom. Even the air seems to pause to absorb the devastation of that truth. The daughter presses her palm to her chest, as if trying to steady a heart suddenly too heavy to carry. You never told me, she whispers. All these years, I thought he left because of me, because he hated me. He never hated you, her father says. He only stepped back because I asked him to, because I thought you needed me more. Her face collapses inward, a mixture of grief, guilt, and something far deeper, the realization that her entire narrative of abandonment had been built on a misunderstanding she never knew existed. Judge Judy lets the silence speak for a moment before interjecting gently. This is the tragedy of unspoken truths. They grow in the dark. They reshape who we become. The daughter presses a shaking hand over her mouth. I pushed you both away because I thought you'd already abandoned me. The veteran's voice cracks with a tenderness that cuts through decades of wrong turns. You were never alone. I was always choosing you. I just didn't see how much it cost. A tear finally slips down her cheek, the first real tear of the entire trial. She whispers, I didn't know. I didn't know any of this. Judge Judy leans forward, her tone softened by understanding but anchored by justice. Now you do, and now we must confront not just what you felt, but what you did. The daughter bows her head. Her father watches her with love and regret intertwined, and the courtroom holds its breath. Judy taps the bench lightly. We're not finished assessing the damage. The daughter looks up, tears trembling. The reckoning is only beginning. Her voice returns. But it's different now. No sharp edges, no defensive rise. Just a quiet, fragile sound trying to find its place in a room full of truths. The daughter wipes her cheek with the back of her hand, as if embarrassed that anyone has seen her cry. For a moment, she looks younger, not in age, but in vulnerability, as though the years of resentment have finally slipped off her shoulders and shattered at her feet. She inhales shakily. I felt abandoned my whole life, she murmurs. Like I was always expected to be the strong one, the responsible one. And when Mom died, I thought no one cared how much I was breaking inside. Her father's eyes soften, heartbreak pooling like water around the edges of a cracked bowl. I cared, he says. I just didn't know how to show it. She nods slowly, painfully. I know that now. But back then, I blamed both of you. I blamed everyone. Judge Judy listens with the kind of silence that isn't empty, but full of weight, full of understanding, full of judgment yet to be spoken. She lets the daughter continue, not out of indulgence, but because truth needs time to breathe before accountability can begin. I thought, the daughter says, her voice quivering, that if I held everything together, someone would finally see how much I was carrying, but no one did, so I got bitter, angry. Her breath catches. and I took it out on the people I should have held closest. The veteran bows his head. Shame rolls off him in quiet waves, not for himself, but for her pain, for the years he failed to understand what she hid beneath her armor. Judy finally speaks. You suffered, she says, but suffering doesn't entitle you to inflict harm. There's a difference between explaining your actions and excusing them. The daughter nods, not in defiance, but resignation. I know that now. She grips the podium, fingers trembling. I didn't realize how much I was hurting him. I thought he'd be fine. I thought I needed space more than he needed a home. And when did you realize you were wrong? Judy asks. When I saw him in this courtroom, she whispers. Standing there, alone, because of me. The veteran's breath trembles at the edges, a subtle collapse of strength. I never wanted to make you feel trapped, he says. I never wanted you to carry everything on your own. Her voice cracks, truly cracks, for the first time. I know, Dad. I just didn't know how to stop resenting you. Judy leans forward, her tone controlled but firm. Resentment becomes cruelty when it's acted upon, and cruelty becomes consequence when it harms someone who trusted you. The daughter's eyes glisten again. I'm sorry, she whispers. I'm so sorry. The apology hangs in the air, too late to erase the damage, yet meaningful enough to shift something in the room. Judy's expression softens only slightly. Acknowledging harm is the beginning, but now we must address what comes after. The daughter's breath hitches. She knows the reckoning isn't over. Judy turns toward her, voice steady. Do you understand what you took from him? The daughter's face crumples, guilt finally eclipsing fear. The answer is coming. For the first time, she looks at him without anger, without defense, without the armor she's carried for decades. Her eyes linger, and in them, something finally breaks open. Not fear, not pride, recognition. The daughter steadies herself at the podium, but her hands won't stop trembling. She swallows hard, her gaze drifting slowly toward the old man sitting just a few feet away. The veteran lifts his eyes, soft, wounded, waiting. For a moment, the courtroom feels suspended between them, everyone else fading into a quiet blur. I didn't mean to hurt you, she says, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know how much I needed you until you were gone. The veteran's expression softens into something unbearably tender. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His silence is a gentle permission, the kind he's given her all her life. She steps closer, just enough for her words to reach him without echoing. When Mom died, I felt like the ground disappeared under me, and you were grieving too. I thought you didn't have room for my pain. She presses a hand to her chest. So I buried it, all of it, and the more it grew, the more I pushed you away. Judy watches her carefully, not with judgment now, but with the solemn awareness of a truth finally surfacing after years of being buried alive. The daughter continues, voice cracking in places she tries desperately to hold together. I told myself you didn't care, that no one cared, and it was easier to believe that than admit I was drowning. She wipes a tear with the back of her hand. I'm sorry, Dad, not just for what I did, but for who I became while doing it. The veteran bows his head, his shoulders trembling. I should have seen you were hurting, he whispers. I should have been there more. His words are gentle, too gentle, and for a moment, the daughter recoils from them like they're painful, because forgiveness can cut deeper than blame. Judy intervenes with measured calm. Hurt people often hurt others, but in the end, it's not the pain that defines us. It's the choices we make when confronted with it. The daughter nods, tears slipping freely now. I didn't choose well, she admits. I chose fear. I chose anger. I chose distance. And he paid for it. Her father reaches out a trembling hand. Not to accuse, to anchor her. The daughter hesitates, then gently places her hand in his. The courtroom absorbs the moment like soft light spilling over a dark room. You didn't deserve what I did, she whispers. You deserved kindness, safety, a home. The veteran squeezes her hand, fragile but steady. I only ever wanted us to be a family. Her breath shudders. And then the judge speaks, not unkindly, but with the gravity of justice. That may still be possible, Judy says, but first, there must be accountability. The daughter inhales sharply. She knows what comes next. Judy raises her gavel slightly. It's time for my ruling. The entire courtroom braces. The gavel hasn't even struck, yet the room is already holding its breath. Judge Judy straightens, the weight of every truth revealed today gathering like a storm behind her eyes. And the daughter, trembling now, seems to finally understand that accountability isn't punishment, it's consequence. The silence in the courtroom is almost holy, not peaceful, not empty, reverent. A silence earned by truth finally dragging itself into the light after years of living beneath blame, fear, and misunderstanding. The veteran sits tall, though his hands still tremble atop his cane. The daughter stands straighter than before, but her posture has changed. It holds no arrogance now, only acceptance. Judge Judy begins. This case, she says, her voice steady as bedrock, is not simply about a father being put out of a home. It's about a pattern of emotional neglect, financial misuse, and distance created by fear instead of honesty. Her gaze shifts to the daughter, firm but not cruel. You broke your father's trust. You misused his financial resources. You removed him from your home without ensuring his safety. These actions caused real harm. The daughter nods, tears slipping freely but silently. She no longer tries to wipe them away. Judy continues, but you also revealed something else. Not malice, but buried pain. Pain you never shared. Pain that turned into resentment, and resentment that became cruelty. The gallery holds still, absorbing the difficult truth. Judge Judy turns to the veteran, her tone softening with respect. Sir, you've shown dignity, restraint, and compassion through circumstances that would have crushed many. You deserved better. The old man bows his head. Thank you, Your Honor. Judy sits a little straighter, lifting her gavel. Here is my ruling. The daughter tenses, but she doesn't look away. You are responsible, Judy says, for restitution of the funds withdrawn from your father's account without his knowledge. Full repayment is ordered. The daughter nods, not defeated, but humbled. Additionally, the judge continues, a no-contact period will be in place until your father decides, freely and without pressure, otherwise. Healing cannot begin under obligation. A soft sob escapes the daughter's lips, this time not from panic, but from the pain of understanding what she's truly lost. The veteran looks at his daughter, his voice filled with a tenderness that overwhelms even the verdict. I still love you, he whispers. I always will. Her breath breaks, her shoulders cave, but she nods, accepting both the pain and the love in equal measure. Judge Judy lowers her gavel, her final words carrying the quiet thunder of truth. In this courtroom, justice isn't revenge. It's clarity, responsibility, and the chance, if you choose, to become better than your mistakes. The gavel falls, a sound like the end of something, a sound like the beginning of something else. Arrogance collapses under truth, but love, even broken, has the courage to stand again.